Siddharth, you were made editor of The Hindu in 2011 May, and there were lots of stories. You know, Murali wrote a piece in his resignation. So did Malini Parthasarathy, and Murali called it Hindus run like a banana republic. Malini had her own version of things. What was it like when you first were appointed and you walked in? And I believe Mr. Ram gave a speech about how Hindu will function from then on. And in fact, you're the first non-family editor, the first professional editor.
Yes. Well, I mean, I actually joined in Chennai as editor end of July, and took over from Mr. Ram, as it were, when he retired or demitted office as editor-in-chief on January the 18th. So in a sense, I had a lengthy transition period. When I joined at the headquarters in Madras, it was very clear to me that whatever controversies had preceded my appointment at the level of the board or wherever, those were all settled, in the sense that there had obviously been some kind of there had been a legal challenge, and that had run its course, and the courts had finally put their imprimatur on this transition, and the board was fully backing the move to professionalize the running of the paper.
Why did he call it a banana republic? Why did Murali call it?
I have no idea, and I don't really have information, or I'm competent to speak about whatever may have happened in the board. All I can say is that ever since I have been functioning as editor, the role of the editor as the person in charge of whatever gets published in the paper is very clear, and there is no interference from anybody, there is no interference from any quarter, and the mandate that I have, which is to run the paper as per the code of editorial values that was adopted by the Hindu board, is a very clear one. And this is a mandate which emphasizes the relationship of trust that the Hindu has built up over the last 125 years with its readers, and its commitment to accurate reporting, objective journalism that raises the level of discussion in society about all the problems that we confront. That's my mandate, as far as I'm concerned.
But Malini brought up the fact that the Hindu was responsible in kind of covering up the 2G scam, didn't give it the kind of coverage other papers did.
You know, the fact is that if you look at our reporting over the period when, in the run-up to the CAG's report, the fact is that when information became available that was authentic or objective, we reported it. We reported all the allegations that the opposition leveled against the government on 2G. So in that way, our coverage is really no different from anybody else. We perhaps didn't have as many exclusives on the topic as we might have, but then Hindu has, one of our weakness has been reporting of corporate affairs, reporting of business matters in general. This is something that we have already begun to remedy.
Most of the news organizations, the large organizations, were in possession of the Radia tapes long before they were actually brought out by Open and Outlook.
Right.
Headlines Today had done a piece leaving out journalist name and other names.
Right.
So it wasn't really that kind of a sexy story. People didn't pick it up.
Let's separate out these two things.
Did you have the tapes?
The 2G and the Radia controversy overlap but are not identical. They're not similar, right?
Sure.
So the 2G issue is the scam and the allotment of licenses, the role of Mr. Raja, etc., the kind of loss that caused. The Radia tapes involved players who were active in the run-up to that scam. And like other news houses, we also received, not tapes, but we received documents of unknown provenance on the letterhead of income tax officials, which purported to be summaries of conversations in these tapes. We were not able to confirm the authenticity of this information. So like everybody else, we also felt we cannot use this. So the first I heard audio recordings was when Outlook and Open put them up on their website. And when it became clear that none of the dramatis personae, as it were denying that was their voice, we said this is something that needs to be reported. We were the only mainstream paper to actually pick up the story from Outlook and Open and run stories on the basis of the tapes, including on journalists who were involved and so on, which no other paper did.
What happens when you know that what you've got is authentic, you know the voices, but there may be a motive, but you know you're also being an instrument in fixing somebody else.
All leaked information originates from some kind of vested interest, right? Journalists who have done investigative reports know this, that documents which come your way mysteriously or audio recordings come to you with a purpose. Somebody brings them to you because they have an axe to grind. Conducting due diligence on any material you get is something that responsible editors do. And Outlook and Open subjected those. I'm not really competent to speak on how they took their editorial decision, but they would have run a certain due diligence and decided to go along with that. Who exactly made the recordings, how they came into the public domain, why they came into the public domain. Business houses that are supposed to have leaked this information in some ways have themselves been compromised by what's on those tapes. So I don't know. I mean, this is really one of those mysteries. I mean, now you have the government saying that that these are recordings that we might have made, but we didn't put them out into the public. If the government has recorded people saying things and has followed procedure, and I hope that they did follow procedure as mandated by law and the Supreme Court, then keeping that information confidential is something the government ought to have done. If it didn't, the government needs to investigate how this stuff leaked. Once it leaks, though, and once journalists are satisfied that this stuff is authentic,
it is also not only the government but the journalist's duty to investigate the source.
Right.
That why is this person giving this to me?
in cases where the source was quite clear, or where you felt that there was I'll give you, since we're talking of tapes, I mean the clearly falsified tape of Shanti Bhushan and Prashant Bhushan having this conversation.
That was so obvious.
Those experts who certified it as accurate deserve to be sacked, because even to the naked ear, it was very clear, especially when you played that conversation with the earlier conversation of Amar Singh, that this is a doctored tape. So you have that tape, and you also can guess the provenance of it, and you can guess the context in which it's emerged, and you say, okay, don't touch it with a barge pole, right? This was, I think, a little bit different, quite frankly. Yes, there was a dogfight between corporate houses. 2G scam necessarily meant that Mr. Raja was cherry-picking companies, that some companies who perhaps didn't play ball with him for a variety of reasons were not chosen, would be disgruntled. As I said, with any great story, documents, tapes emerge from disgruntled parties. Now these may be politicians, these may be corporate houses, these may be whistleblowers.